Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second section of the day from our Boom Back to School Symposium. This will be the section all about special education and how to use boom cards for special education. And today we have our amazing special education teachers or educators. I may say Chandra Henry, Ashley Lutz, and Heather Castillo. I always have, yeah, okay, that's good. So yeah, thank you all for being here with us. You guys are amazing. We had them last year and we are having them this year again. So this is amazing. So thank you all that are joining us today in this section. Reminder, we have the chat where you can add all of your comments, and we have the Q&A box where you can add all of your questions. So please, if you have any questions for our presenters, please post those in the Q&A box, because in the chat it can get lost, okay? And we will be having a live Q&A at the end. So in this section, we'll be having Chandra, Ashley, and Heather sharing how they use boom cards for special education, and they'll be doing some demo lessons. So I'm Jenny Rosado. I'm a customer success specialist in boom learning, and I'll be hosting this section. So without further ado, let's go over with Heather.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here. If you are not familiar with who I am, you might know me as Full Sped Ahead. I've been a special education teacher for the last 8 years. And then this past year, I was an autism instructional coach, and then developed into a curriculum facilitator or curriculum director at an autism school. So I've kind of grown in the world of special education, and I found my love for boom learning, like many of you, in COVID times. You know, this is kind of where it all came out, and we realized how incredible they can be. So my goal for you today is to kind of take away some tips and tricks that you can implement in your classroom literally so quickly, that you can do next week. You can do it the first day of school, whenever you are going back. I really want to make sure that you have actionable things that you can take and use immediately in the classroom. So I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see a little bit of what mine looks like. This is years and years of acquiring and creating boom card decks. And if you have not already organized your boom cards into folders, you need to make sure that you are doing that, because if you are working on a specific skill, it is so easy to find something. Then, oh, I have a student who's working on counting. Okay, here's all the things that I have that are working on counting. And really that is so helpful. So I'm going to work today from my self-published folder. And of course, if you have any questions along the way, you are welcome to use the Q&A or the chat feature. So if I was teaching money, I'm going to search my decks to see what do I have on money. And so I have a bunch of different things here. Cool. Maybe there's, you know, which coin is more, which coin is less. Maybe we really just want to work on identifying the coins. So if I had a whole group lesson that I wanted to teach, I would just go straight into maybe a warm up with the error list. So I would take my students into that, and we would then see, okay, find the penny. I can talk about it. I can use this to teach. It's errorless. I can have a student come up and touch it, and it'll move to the next card. Another student can come up and touch it. Again, it can move on to the next card. It'll be really great. If you are hearing the sound right now, all boom card decks that I've created have sound, because a lot of the students that I had worked with were non-readers. So this is a really great way to get them involved, to understand this is dime. I want you to find the dime, that kind of thing. So errorless is always what I use for warm-ups, just to kind of get our minds thinking about what's going on. So you would go through this whole deck, which is fantastic. But like I said, we're talking in maybe a whole group here. So if I want to go back and make sure this is interactive for my students, I'm going to click this action button, and I might want to print these cards. So I can go ahead and print these cards so that every student has a set at their table, and they can also be touching or pointing or showing these coins, so that we can make sure that they are following along as well. You can print 2 cards a row, which gives you a lot more smaller cards, more like a task card size. Or you can just do it as 1 per page. also fine too. There's lots of different ways that you can do that. So I feel like printing really brings that into the classroom so that everybody can really follow along. So let's keep going with this money trend. So say now my lesson is getting to go. We've talked about coins. Now maybe I want to go a little bit more, and we're going to teach a lesson on more or less. So again, I might just go in and click this. This is not tracking any data. That's totally fine. I'm doing my teaching of my lesson right now. So we want to differentiate between these two. Okay, we know a penny is 1 cent and a nickel is 5 cents. So then we want to make sure that we know 5 is more than 1. So I might be doing some instruction on the board with me, and also teaching them alongside. So if I have like a whiteboard, or every student has a whiteboard, which is more, 1 or 5, we can really have that discussion and conversation where we are working kind of together, of that like we do model, so that everybody can really be involved in the learning process as well. So again, you can kind of go through this. Of course, the kids get the fun little whoops and the fun little noises that come with it. You can always turn those off. That is definitely a setting that you can do. You know, the auto sound or the unauto sound. You can totally do all of that. You can skip cards. Maybe we're not ready to talk about quarters yet. You can skip that card. You can go to the next one. Maybe you wanted to go back and have a student do that one specifically. You can totally do that. And give up is just surrender that card and it goes away. And if this was tracking it, then it would track that that student did not do that card. Again, you can also hide the card. If you feel like you really just don't want to be working on quarters yet, you can hide that card, not shown to the students or visible in reports, which is great too. So then from there, my favorite part of this is, yes, we can do these as whole group. Everybody's in the front of the classroom. Everybody takes turns, but we can also do this as independent work. So if I go to my classes, I have myself as a student here, and I can see the report of all the things that we've been working on. So before I get into that though, I'm gonna go back just slightly. And of course you can click the reports tab. You can go through literally everything that is assigned to them. So if I wanna know how much money in 2 bills, okay, I can see Heather spent some time on this. She got a 69% there, a 75, a 62, a 68. So she's getting there. You know, we're kind of getting that progress, but this is maybe not as friendly as you want to see it. You can, of course, can print it, which is fantastic. But maybe you want to see it actually in this report. So this is what I was really going to try to pull up. So there is that how much money with 2 bills. We're adding money together. So I'm going to click on this so that you can actually see each time that Heather, me, did this assignment. And I got 11 out of 16 as my newest one. But then there was 2 other times that I did it where I got 12 out of 16 and 10 out of 16. So we're getting there, maybe not total mastery yet. The other part that I really do like is it seems like the first card we always seem to get right. The third card, I mean, you can kind of check for patterns. If you notice a lot of the incorrect answers are happening towards the end, then you'll know maybe they're fatiguing towards the end, and maybe you can hide some cards so there's not as many, which is also a great feature. Another thing that I really like to look at for my students was this response time. So if I noticed, oh, there was one that was really kind of a longer time to think about it and process it, I can take a look and see literally what card that was. So that pops up and says, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. It took her a while to answer that. Again, if I have students who are answering very quickly and they're getting all incorrect, then I can see that too, which I, again, absolutely love. You can delete entries if you feel that was not the best opportunity for that student. Maybe they were distracted. Maybe something else was going on. And so that's all of my favorite things about boom cards and how I would do it. So again, I'd start with that error list as kind of like a warm up. And then I would go into some type of identical matching or maybe some sorting or word matching so that we are working together to do that teaching aspect of it. And then that independent work, you can totally assign decks so that students can be a part of it. And I did not show that to you because I'm sure somebody else on this call is going to show you how to assign decks. So any questions for me? I'm going to see if there was any questions at the end here.
And from Tiffany, and she was asking, how did you get to this screen? Oh, she just posted, I just saw where she was. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, then, yeah.
Sounds
So right now we don't have any questions yet. Oh yeah, we do have one. Where do you go to make your cards printable?
Yeah, I can show that again. I'll just go back to my screen. Close this out. So I would go into your decks, wherever your decks are, whatever deck you want. Scroll to the one that you're looking for. I'm going to go back to that coin one. This action right here, if you see my screen here, action, you're going to click that, and that'll be where you can do the assigning the deck to somebody. You can do a fast pin, a hyperlink. That's where you can print the cards. You can also hide cards from this feature too. So then you would press action and print, and then this would pop up. And then just make sure to check how many cards you want to a page or per row, either 1, 2, or 3. And then that's how you do that.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, I think not many people know how to print boom cards, and actually that they can print boom cards. So thank you for showing that.
Fantastic.
Okay, so now we have next Chandra from Quintessential Achiever, and she'll be presenting her demo lesson.
Okay, hi everyone. I have a message that says that I can't start my video. I don't know if you guys blocked my video.
Sorry.
So you have to.
There you go.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. It's okay. All right. Hi everyone. My name is Chandra Henry. I'm also a special education teacher. I have been a self-contained classroom teacher for 17 years, and then I switched over to now supporting students in the Gen Ed classroom. So this is going to be my 3rd year going into the classroom, pushing in and help supporting students in that environment. And I thought that I would share with you how I use boom cards in this new role and as a inclusion teacher in the Gen Ed setting. So I'm just going to share my slides with you as we go along. So like I said, we're going to look at how I use it in the Gen Ed setting with my students, in the Gen Ed setting, I should say. So first of all, every year at the beginning of the year, I set up my classroom, and I set it up by grade levels because I have multiple grade levels. Last year, I had 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. So I have classes set up over here for each grade level or each group that I go into. And I always give them easy usernames because I'm pushing into the classrooms. I don't always carry my computer with me, so I don't want to go into a small group, and they're like, oh, Miss Henry, I don't know my username. I don't know my password. So I make it really standardized for all my kids. So they, like for me personally, it's their first name, then the initial of their last name, and then I'll put 2022, 2023. So no matter which group or which classroom I go into, it's always going to be first name, initial of their last name, and then 2022, 2023. That's going to be standard across all the kids. So that way they know what it's going to be and I know what it is without like running back to my office to try and grab my computer to try and look up what their login details are. And I use the picture password for all my classes, all of my grade levels. Everyone has the same picture password, same reason. So they know what the password is. I know what the password is. And it's so much easier than trying to get them to type a password out and have numbers and punctuations and uppercase, lowercase. It just makes it really easy for everyone. Also, if your schools use Clever or Google or Microsoft ClassLink, you can actually set it up in a way where they can just log into Boom Learning that way as well. And then I start assigning boom cards. So like what Heather's mentioned before, I do it by my groups that I go into. So because I had 4th, 5th, and 6th, I did it by 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. So with the ones that I assign to everyone in that particular group, it's usually something they can already do. So it's some skills that they've learned, and I just want them to maintain it because a lot of them will forget if they don't use it for a while. So those are the skills those are the boom cards I assign to like the whole group, something that I want to reinforce or review with them. And it might be something that they are working on in class as well. So they've been exposed to more practice opportunities to work on those skills as well. And then I also assign boom cards to individual students. This is where my IEP goals come in. So this boom decks are specifically focusing on working on their IEP goals. And if they have gaps in the skills, so if they're trying to do 3-digit addition, but they don't know how to do 2-digit addition, I might put in a 2-digit addition boom cut in there for them to practice to get that gap narrowed, and so that they can work on the 3-digit addition problems. And it's for anyone who needs additional support. So some boom cards I'm going to show you have additional supports in there so they can still work on that math skills, but there's additional or reading skills, but it has additional supports put in there. And also for enrichment. So if someone's doing really well, I'm not going to keep them doing 3-digit addition. Maybe I'll get them a boom card that's doing 3-digit addition with regrouping. So it kind of works both ways for the enrichment, but also for the kids who need that extra support as well. Another way I assign boom cards is with fast spin. So this is when it's like a last minute thing. So I might go into a classroom and I'm thinking, yep, I've got this amazing lesson that I'm going to use. And then the teacher, oh, we're going to start testing, the unit test in 5 minutes. So I might just pull them really quickly. We might do a fast spin boom cards, like a review or something, or a time filler. Maybe we're waiting to go into assembly or some kind of school event. I might use a fast spin because it's a lot easier for them to just get on the fast spin, using the fast spin code, then trying to log in and find the boom deck. But you do have to remember at fast spin, it does not collect data. So this is not something I'll use if I'm trying to collect data on. And sometimes when you go into a classroom, you have students who are not part of your caseload, but they see all the amazing fun your kids are having doing boom cards. And they're like, Miss Henry, can I do it too? Can I do it too? I want to do it. I want to do it. So I give them a fast spin because I don't need to collect data on them. They don't have a boom account. So they get to be part of the learning experience using boom cards, which they all love. And I use QR codes for that. So I'll copy and paste the fast spin URL into a QR code generator. And then the kids just use the iPads and scan the QR code, which is so much easier than them trying to type in the URL links. And then, as Heather mentioned before, I also do use it as whole group activities. Being a teacher that pushes in, I don't always get a smartboard or a whiteboard to project on, but when I do, it's usually for whole group activities. We do team games, so I might put them into teams and say, all right, let's see which team can get the most questions correct. So they work together, or as a whole group, they might work together. And then it's really nice to see how they will support one another to try and solve the problems, as well as one student goes up to answer the questions. Also, sometimes they may not have their devices with them. So someone might have left their iPad at home, or it's not charged, or there's just not enough to go around. Then I'll project it on the whiteboard or smartboard if I have one, so that everybody can still participate. And it gives a more relaxed feeling. So the kids don't really think they're working, they think they're playing. And with this boom card, obviously it's more of a fun boom card, a get to know you boom card, but I might put like a math boom card up there, and I can still collect informal data on the kids, like, oh, you really don't know how to do this, or you do know how to do this, that kind of thing. So it's just a different way to use the boom cards. So when do I use boom cards? I use it when I pull my small group. I go into a classroom, I might pull a small group. And if I have like 5 kids, I might assign boom cards to, like, say 3 kids. So then I can focus on 2 kids and give them the specially designed instruction. And then I'll switch over, and then they're doing boom cards, and I can work with the other students. So they're not just waiting around for me, getting bored, and then they start playing out and things like that. I also assign boom cards to the students who might need that extra push or that extra practice. I use it for pre-test and post-test. So like multiplication facts, when they come in next week for my school, they're all coming back next week. So I might do a pre-test to see what they remember, how many facts they know, and then do a post-test in a few weeks, or, when we decide to do the multiplication unit. And obviously for addressing IEP goals as well. So like for this one, as you can see, there's a straightforward multiplication fact boom cards, but I can also adapt it for some of my kids who are not so good with the multiplication facts. So like for this one, I added visual support so they can count the actual candy cones in there to solve the multiplication problem, but they can also visually see how multiplication works and how to represent it in a pictorial model as well. So that's one of the good things about Boom cards, is that you can add the visual supports in there for the students who need it. As Heather mentioned as well, I reduced the number of cards. Like some of my kids don't have a very long stamina for working, so I can reduce the number of cards that I present to them. Or you can also build on the skills. So I might start off by doing multiplication facts 1 to 5 first. And then once they get really good at it, then I'll slowly add 6 and then 7 and then 8 kind of thing. So you can also customize your Bloom cards that way. Another way that I meet their learning needs with Bloom cards is the audio support. So this is like a WH question task, and it's got the audio for the passage, it's got the audio for the questions and the answer options. So that way the students can build their independence. So I'm not sitting there next to them, reading them everything. They can independently complete this task, and I can go support some of the other students who might need help as well. You can also scaffold your activities. So for example, this is how to write a paragraph, and I can give them explicit directions on what should be on each sentence. And then also like a checklist on, all right, this is what your paragraph should look like once you finish writing it. So that it's just another way you can add supports for the students who need it to show them how to write a paragraph, or just so that they can show you what they've learned. And also, like I said before, you can also use it to build on your skills they've already mastered. So for example, when we're doing punctuation, I might start off with a Bloom card activity about just the end punctuation, so just periods, exclamation marks, and question marks. And then as they master those, I might then build on those skills and add a Bloom card about how to use apostrophes. And so that way you can just keep building on, so you can really meet the students' learning needs using Bloom cards. And what I like a lot about Bloom cards is that it collects the data for you and gives you a lot of information. So it tells you how long they take to finish the whole Bloom card activity. So if someone takes like 1 minute to finish like a 20 problem Bloom cards, you know, they probably guessed through it, especially with some multiple choice and they're just like clicking the answers. It also tells you how long they took to answer each question. So like Heather mentioned before, you can go and actually analyze each question. So they took longer to answer a particular question. You can go see why they might have taken a longer time. Maybe it was like a 9 times table problem, and they didn't know the 9 times table, and that's why they took longer. So it gives you a lot of information. Obviously, it gives you the overall accuracy. It tells you which questions they answered incorrectly. So it tells you exactly, like Heather showed you before, like you can hover over these X's and it will tell you exactly which question they answered incorrectly. And it also tells you what incorrect answer they put in there, which is really nice. And then you can also track progress. Like if you see this one, you can see the first 3 times she got it wrong. And then finally she figured out how to do it. So it gives you tons and tons of information. And obviously, as Heather showed you too, it graphs everything for you, which is so amazing. So it collects the data and it graphs for you. So you don't have to go then transfer it and graph it yourself, which is really cool. I also like it because it's no prep, because sometimes you run into school and you're like, oh no, I've got my small group. But if you have all your Bloom cards organized and you have them assigned to your students and in your groups, then you just have to go into the group and say, all right, let's do Bloom cards. And it's all ready to go for the kids and for you as well. You don't have to do anything. I also like it because it shows the students their incorrect responses. So like if they're doing this multiplication problem, it doesn't just say, yeah, nah, you know, like, wah, wah, you got it wrong, but it tells you exactly where the mistake was made. So they don't have to like go back and resolve the whole problem. They can go back and fix the error. And it also, for task analysis, it helps you as the teacher to see where they went wrong. So you know at which multi-step, like which step they made the error and where you have to go in and support them to fix that error as well. So I really like that about Bloom cards, because it really, you can really narrow down to the specifics of where they need the support and how you can reteach them. And then I have more reasons why I love boom cards. I'm sorry. It's just the best thing ever. I don't know how I lived without it. It's self-checking. So the students can go in and do the boom cards and check if it's wrong. If it's incorrect, they can go back and try again. So boom card does let you go back and try again. Plus, that means you're not grading. You have no grading to do because boom card's doing it for you. It's collecting the accuracy for you, and it's graphing for you. It builds their independence because they are able to sit and complete a task independently. You can add scaffolds and supports for students who need them, so you can differentiate your instruction. You can add animation like the one that just on this boom card, and it truly engages the students. They're more willing to do this, and they will ask for it. When I go into my small groups, they'll be like, Miss Henry, are we doing boom cards today? Can we do boom cards? And I'm like I said, some of the other kids will come over and like, can I do it too? Can I do it too? So the kids want to do it, which makes it easier for us because they're more willing to try to do their best. And then I'm going to give you a few more reasons why the kids love it. And because it's not a pencil to paper task, because as soon as you put a worksheet down on the desk, they're most likely to go like, oh, and groan. But this is not a paper to pencil task. So that itself is already a huge buy-in for them. They get to use an iPad or a computer. They're not overwhelmed with the entire task. So like I said, if you're giving them like a worksheet and it's got like 20 problems on it, they're going to look at it and go like, no, I'm not doing this. And some of them might shut down. But with boom cards, most often you're only seeing one question at a time. So it doesn't look so overwhelming for the students, and they're more willing to complete it for you. And it's self-monitoring. So when they finish a boom card activity, it tells them, like right here, it'll say, you finished with 17 correct and 3 incorrect. So they do pay attention to this. And when they get 0 incorrect, they get very, very excited. They'll come up to you and go, look, I got 0 incorrect. I got it all right. So I like to use this to get them to self-monitor how they are doing as well. And they also love it because it's interactive. You can drag it, you can click it, you can type it. So there's lots of different ways that you can use. The kids can use the boom cards. I believe now the kids can even record into the boom cards to give their responses. And obviously the sound effects, the younger kids like the ding and the whoops, but you can also add your own sound effects and audio supports and things like that as well. So this is another one that has animation as well. And they also like to challenge one another. For example, I used the boom cards over the summer holidays, for summer school. And at first, when I presented them with the activity, they were just rushing, they were racing to see who finished first. But then I was like, all right, let's see. And I was looking at the incorrect and correct answers. So I was like, oh, Jaden got 23 correct. So let's see who can beat 23. And some of the kids who raced through it and got a lower score went back by themselves and said, can I do it again? Can I do it again? Because they wanted to beat Jaden's score of 23 correct answers. So, and they like collecting the jewels as well, because they earn jewels as they do more boom cards and get more correct answers. And so they like that as well. And they'll compare with one another to see how many jewels they have and the avatars, because the kids all like to pick their own avatar. So that's always incentive for them as well. And if they get more jewels, they have more avatars to choose from. And that's it from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chandra. Thank you for that amazing presentation. And now let's go with Ashley Lutz from Spectacular Days. So go ahead, Ashley.
Hey y'all, I am Ashley Lutz from Spectacular Days, and I have been a special educator for 12 years now. I have multiple different placements. I have taught special education, self-contained teaching. I taught for 8 years in an intellectual disabilities classroom. I transitioned to a resource room or an inclusive setting in elementary, and I did that for 4 years. And then most recently, I switched to an ECSE program, which stands for Early Childhood Special Education. During COVID, I found my love for Boom Learning, as I'm sure a lot of you have, and it was really helpful during distance learning for me, especially having students throughout my county working. distant, like virtually with me. So I'm going to go over a little bit today how I used it when I was in the classroom in elementary, and then also touch how I used it in ECSE this past year. So I'm going to start with ECSE. So with ECSE this past year, I would do morning meeting or a morning calendar session, and we always worked on core vocabulary. So a lot of times I would make things that look very similar to this, and see we were working on our theme was apple. I would make a boom card that correlated with that. We would work on skills that worked on all these like turn taking, waiting your turn, using words to hand to a friend, using gentle touch, all the things. So I would have the kids come up to the board and say, okay, Johnny, can you put the apple in the basket? And if Johnny has an AAC device, we would use his AAC device. If not, we might use our core board. There's a variety of different ways. Or I would have Johnny say in basket, or maybe an entire sentence. And they would drag it over. There might not be enough apples, or if we did pumpkins or school buses, there might not be enough, and that's okay, because I might do an activity where they're patiently waiting on the carpet and I pull a name out of a hat and they come up and drag over the object, and we work on that core word. We also would have manipulatives sometimes sitting in front of them to keep their hands excited and their eyes forward. So that's just one way you can do it in a preschool classroom. I also would take this and work on it on my classroom iPad with their core vocabulary. It was just one way to have them work on using their pointer finger and dragging for fine motor. My SLP would also use boom cards in the classroom to work on IEP goals for the students. It wasn't used a ton. We tried to use more hands-on manipulatives, but this was a great way to keep the kids engaged during calendar time and make it exciting and also theme-based for us. I'm gonna go here. I think I can. Okay. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about too, Heather and Chandra also touched on, but this is ways that has been really helpful for me throughout my time using Boom Learning. So I love the QR code because it's an easy way for kids to just hold it up and it brings up the website. In my school, that's how all the kids log on to their computer. So this is just another component. They have a ring that has all of their logins. Like Chandra said, it makes it much easier for teachers. They don't have to worry about I can't log on, I can't type the website in, all of those things that just get out. You can color code them. So if your kids have a lot of them, you can color code them and say everyone needs their blue QR code. For my early learners in pre-K, I would print the pictures that you see here for the login for their password. And I would say Johnny is a bug and a fish. I would hold up the picture of a bug and a fish. Sometimes I would do hand over hand to make sure our pointer finger was out. And I would try to have them do as much as I could independently. And depending on the student, they might be able to do the entire thing independently. Sometimes they might need assistance from myself or my teaching assistant. When I was teaching in elementary, I had a lot of students that I shared with the teacher. So a lot of times I co-taught most of the time. So I would share the student with the colleague so that the general education teacher also had access to their stuff and I had access. So if they were pulling something for a reading assessment, they could look at their scores. If they were going to have a conversation with a parent, they could also access the scores without having to contact me. For Chandra, how she said sometimes she makes her logins pretty simple. I did a lot of the same. I would usually do like their first name, last initial, and then like 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. But I would print the roster and I would have it saved in the classroom in my binder that had all the confidentiality information. And there was a tab in there, they could pull it out and you could see right then and there what their QR code was or their password or their username if they forgot. That was a really helpful tip, especially if you just suddenly have to be out or you get pulled into a meeting and someone takes over. And I just made sure to put that in subplans. And I also gave sometimes a copy of it to the office, especially if it was like a quick switch. They had access to things like that too. So looking at the data. So for me, this was crucial because a lot of times, especially when I was a distance learning teacher, I needed IEP goals, and there wasn't enough time in the day to have a one-on-one session with a student working on their IEP goals at times. So boom cards became my lifeline for that. So I would look at the students' data depending. And if you look over here on the left for US coins and values, you can see that the student's score has improved. You can see up top where whatever concept you're working on or boom card deck. And then the bottom, you can see exactly how long they took, what cards they missed. That was a big thing, especially with distance learning. I could see if they just like clicked through, and then you're like, well, your accuracy might be lower today because you sped through this and you didn't actually take your time and try. So that's helpful as a teacher. If you're noticing that your students are getting decreased accuracy, go in and look and see what's happening there. Over here, you can see there's an example of that. In March, the student was able to get all the answers right. And then in August, they missed 4. So the accuracy decreased, but also the time they spent on the cards decreased as well. So they weren't trying or giving their full effort at times. So looking over at the data, this was a big thing. I had many parents that wanted work to come home, and that was similar to what we were doing in class. So the printing option that Heather showed you was one way that I did that. A lot of times I would print cards and send them home. That's not something you have to do, but parents would request that so that they could also work with their kid, and they didn't always want the technology piece tied to it. But when you hover over the X over here, it pulls up this card to the right that shows you exactly which one they chose. And you can see there, if they have 2 red circles and then the green circle, you can tell that they're literally just clicking. They're not listening to the card as the audio is being read. They're not taking time to study the pattern. So that gives you some good feedback, especially if you're going into a parent-teacher conference. You can say, like, I want to show you what's happening. I think we're just not taking a lot of time here. And you have the data to prove that. And maybe the student, that's clarification for you that the student needs some remediation work on this topic. So maybe you sit down and do a fast pin together, and you work through the deck together as a class in a small group, and then you can carry through from there. These also a few other just tips. A few other things that I worked on with Boom was for working on IEP goals. I did have a student specifically have goals. I would make decks for them. They stayed unpublished, which means that any Boom user could not purchase them. I can go back in and show you that. In here. So like in my library, I have my private ones. So a lot of things, like we used snap words in my school. I made specific ones. I made some specific news to you ones that we were working on. Yes, no, and things like that. This is nice. You still get the access to them for the data. These are just ones that are not accessible to the general public. So you can make them specific to your standards in your classroom. So it was specifically what your students might need. For that. So I hope that has helped. I know someone had a question about going to your class, and you can assign the decks here. I think someone had a question about that, but so that's how you do it. You go into your class and you can assign there, and then you can create this, like Chandra said, and Heather, you create this yourself. Boom will kind of assign one first, but you can change it to making it your student, making it easily accessible for your students. And to print your roster, you click here, if anyone needs to know. And then you can click all the students, just one student. It sometimes might be nice to send home for parents if they need it for back to school night, have it ready to go. Does anyone have questions?
Perfect. Thank you, Ashley. I think you already answered one of the questions. And also another one was for IEP monitoring. So you also talked about that. So now I think we can go ahead and move to the live Q&A. So we had a couple of questions. And so here we have, for example, we have Jeff asking, can you show us an example of fast pin? And I believe how you create it and then what you will do with it.
I can show how I do it. Heather, you want to go? You can go.
No, I wanted you to, because you were talking about it a lot. So go ahead.
Okay. All right. So this is how I do it. So I'll go into I've got all these windows that just popped out. Hang on. All right. So if I go into, say, I can actually just go into library. And then I'll go, so I have all my boom cards here, like Heather, I have it all sorted into folders. And then all you have to do is go to action, and then you go to fast pin, and then you go generate pin, and then that's the link. So some students can't type all this out onto the iPads or computers, so you just copy and paste it, and you go to a QR code generator website, and it pops up a QR code for you, and the students will just scan the QR code, and the boom card works just as it would if you did a hyperlink or if you assigned it to students. The only difference is that it doesn't collect data for you, and the students don't have to have a boom account or sign in.
Perfect, thank you. And that's kind of one of the other questions. So Chandra, you already touched on that, but Heather, can you explain more about the different with a fastpin and a hyperplay link? And another one was, if you use a hyperplay link, does the data show up on the student's report?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to share my screen because I love that Boom shows it and tells you that. So if I want to go back into, let's say, one of these, okay, if I click fast pin, it'll pop up and say it's a shortcut for students to play right away. They are not required to log in and does not collect data. So if that's something that's very quick, immediate, like Sandra was saying, she uses it for fillers, quick things to just pull, which is fantastic. If you want to do a hyperlink, that will prompt the student to sign in. So then that will track the data. So this hyperlink was great to put in your Google Classroom, Clever, a Seesaw, something like that, where the student is required to log in, and then they can play directly from there without going to the Boom Learning website or an app, so that they can log in there. So that's also the great way. And I think that those are the two main features. And then of course the assigned feature is that the student will log in from the Boom Learning account or the app, and that directly those decks that are assigned to them, again, under that classes, under assignments, you can click and assign and unassign all of them there. I can click and find them. Or like they were saying right here directly, this drop arrow will be the assign, and you can assign decks from there too.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that, Heather. And so Ashley, can you talk about which data do you use for the IP goal monitoring?
Yes. So I will specifically make Boom decks or find them within the Boom searchable feature in the store and use them for my students' IEP goals. And then I will have them do it several times throughout the quarter, but I also have them do it on different platforms, not just Boom. I will have paper-based or maybe manipulative-based too, to show across the board that they are able to do the digital platform, the paper-based platform, and I go to the report. So under the student's name, you'll click the little arrow, hit report. And like Heather and Chandra said, it'll show you all of their times that they have attempted that specific deck. Then I will print that out. And if it's from, let's say, January to May, I will highlight, obviously, the ones that they're doing during that quarter time, and then use that for my data. It's really nice to print. You can send it home to parents, and that way they can show progress or areas of deficit that they still might need some assistance with.
Thank you. And something that we mentioned in our priors. So yesterday we had a session for autism, and something super also important is that parents can also track that data and that progress that the student is doing. So as part of the IEP, that's something, how the parents are going to track that progress. So that's another way parents can actually see that data from the student view. So that's another tip for IEP goals. And so Chandra, so someone was asking, I noticed that you already answered that, but can you share your screen to show how you hide boom cards when assigning for students? Oh, you're muted, Chandra. Chandra, I think you're still muted. I don't know if you're talking. We're seeing your screen right now. Like your entire screen. Okay.
All right. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. I will get into my Boom Learning website. And then say we're doing this one. So over here on the side right here, I'm not sure why it's not showing up. Okay, so right here, it'll tell you hide cards. So you can pick and choose which cards you want to hide. So if you're working, say, like this one has 20 boom cards and I just want to focus on numbers 1 to 5, then I can just go ahead. I can go skip, 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 and then hide the cards that are higher than number 5. So this is 3. So this is like 7. So I can hide this one. It'll say hidden cards are not shown to students or not visible in reports. So then it's hidden, but when they see it, they don't actually see hidden cards. You'll just see like the 5 boom cards that I did not hide or the 10 boom cards that I did not hide. So that's how I do it.
Perfect. And you can do that from your library and just click to preview the deck and then just start hiding. And then after that, you can actually unhide. So let's say they are already played those cards, you can go ahead and unhide the others. So thank you for sharing that, Chandra. And so Tiffany is asking, can parents and co-teachers see the actual boom cards or just the data? Can someone answer that?
Can you repeat that question again?
Oh yeah. Can parents and co-teachers see the actual boom cards or just the data?
Ashley, go ahead.
So yes, if you are the teacher or the co-teacher, in my presentation, there was a picture that shows like where the report is. I think I could pull it up still.
Yeah, so we can see. Perfect. Thank you.
When you look at the one they got wrong, it pops up this screen that shows you exactly which card it was so that you can track, because a lot of mine, I have them shuffled in a random order because students that I had would learn them, and or if they saw like a certain picture, they would just learn, oh, that's the green one, oh, that's the yellow one. And so a tip might be is I will actually only say there's 60 in the deck, only 10 will go out. So there's at least you have to go through it at least like 6 times before you see the entire deck, because kids will memorize them. I've learned from my own child that he will memorize them. So just a tip, but yes, it does show you like their ones they got right and the ones they got wrong.
Thank you. Yes. And they can, from the student perspective, if you're logging into the student account, the co-teacher or the parents can see the list of classrooms, teachers, and all the decks that they have. Click on the deck and see all the data. So yeah, you can have access to all of that. So we are running like 2 minutes. So we only have 2 minutes. So we want to say thank you all for joining us in this special education panel or section. Thank you, Ashley, Heather, and Chandra for being here again. You guys are amazing. We love you very much. And yeah, so we'll see you in our next section. We have SOP section and for the basic subjects. So it will be like ELA, math, social studies. So thank you all for joining us again. Thank you again. Make sure to follow Ashley, Chandra, and Heather in their social media and the Boom stores. It is in the chat, and make sure to fill out our feedback form. So we'll see you all in our next section. Bye-bye.